What's up guys, it's Kayla.
And Jim.
Welcome back to another Meteorology Monday. This might actually not be a Meteorology Monday. This might come out a little bit sooner than Monday because we have a lot of these hurricane prep videos to put out for you guys. So, going off that fantastic segue, this is video 2 in our Hurricane Preparedness mini-series.
Today we'll be discussing the main preparations that need to be done. Usually it's done before hurricane season, and we've started our video series in the beginning of hurricane season just because the schedules didn't quite work out. But you know what? Better late than never, we're doing it. So this one specifically is talking about preparedness. Now it's not a fully comprehensive list, obviously, but some of these things will be really helpful hitting these high-level topics. Now, of course, here in 2023, the Atlantic hurricane season has already begun. Since we're doing this video, we've already had a few storms that have popped up, and fortunately nothing has made landfall at this time, so we're still going to continue our preparations. But of course, it's better to prepare before hurricane season, but you know, that's just how it landed this year.
Maybe they're watching from the future. Maybe this is before hurricane season next year.
Well, there you go.
Or the year after.
We're going to discuss evacuation planning, what supplies you'll need, important documents, and other things. But before we get started,
make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below so you never miss another Meteorology Monday. Down in the description box will be the link to the NOAA site that we are pulling a lot of this information from if you want to check that out. And while you're down there, check out our school weather if you would love to learn about the basics of meteorology or some severe weather stuff. We put together a series of online courses to help you out there.
That's right, and there's even one on hurricanes.
There is.
So let's dive into the first topic of this video, and that is developing an evacuation plan. Some essential things when it comes to developing an evacuation plan is where would you go, how would you get there, and how long should you stay? So let's start with the first question, where would you go?
Well, there's a few things to consider. So if where you are is either north or south of where the hurricane's going to be coming in, is the hurricane going to be turning north or south when it hits? How big is the wind field? We'll get into all that stuff a little bit later, but those are some of the things that you have to take into account when deciding, are we going north, south, east, west? Which direction are we going?
So leading to the next question is how would you get there?
Again, it determines how far you gotta go. Is it easier to fly somewhere, or are you driving? Are you able to drive? Can you fit everything in your car? Is it practical road-wise to drive, or are you having to fly? In some cases, you might have to take a boat if you live on an island or an area that's only accessible by ferry. So a lot of things to consider, especially if you're using more public forms of transportation.
If you're going to use your own vehicle, will it get you to that location?
Right.
Will it be able to travel that far? Some folks' vehicles might not be good enough to go outside their local area.
Yeah.
So you have to rely on other transportation. Are there other folks going in that direction that you can get a ride with? Does your local government authorities have some sort of means of mass evacuation? A lot of things to consider when it comes to, okay, here's where I need to go, now how do I get there? So going to the third question, that is how long are you prepared to stay at your evacuation location?
Yeah, again, going back to, are you meeting up with family members that live in a safer area? Do you have to find hotels? Are you going to stay at some sort of shelter? Is there availabilities in these places? Because usually when you're evacuating for a hurricane, just like half to the entire state is having to leave, so there's a lot of people who need to be getting to certain places.
Now we'll get into this in just a moment, but you also have to consider your pets as well.
Yep.
So if you're going to fly, if you need to go that far, or if you need to travel that far by car, if you need to take public transportation, will they allow pets? Where you're staying at, will they allow pets? So that's another consideration.
It's a lot that goes on when you have to evacuate for a hurricane.
Yeah, it's very disruptive to life.
Those of you who have also done it know.
Okay, so based on those three questions, we put together some examples of some potential evacuation plans that you could use. Again, this doesn't cover everything, and these exact plans may not work, but at least they give the framework of what to think about when it comes to making your own evacuation plan. So let's take a look at our first example. Example number 1. You live in Melbourne, Florida. Hurricane X is about 400 miles east-southeast of your location. It is heading west-northwest toward the coast at 14 miles per hour. The storm is 300 miles wide, and the National Hurricane Center has the storm making landfall in Brevard County, your home county, in about 36 hours, then curving northward afterwards. Very strong winds at and above hurricane force will extend from Brooksville, Florida, to Lakeland to West Palm Beach. What direction should you head? How far away should you go? Okay, so in example number 1, here we are in Melbourne, Florida. So whereabouts would you go if you're taking a look at this example? If that storm continues to stay confined to the size that it is, and the wind field is going to stay again confined to that as well, and it travels that path, you could evacuate by plane. You could take your car if your car is trustworthy, and you can make your way over, say, to the southwest side of Florida to get far enough away. There's a number of different options here. You can go down to Miami, or you can go over to Fort Myers, just in case there's a little wobble to that track. If you go further south and west, it gives you a little bit more leeway. Of course, once you get past Fort Myers and Naples and Sanibel Island and all that area, there's not a whole lot more to take shelter in. So it's something to keep in mind. You don't want to pin yourself into a corner either. Example number 2. Hurricane Y is about 700 miles south of your location. It is heading north toward the coast at 12 miles per hour. The storm is 500 miles wide, and the National Hurricane Center has the storm making landfall in the western Florida panhandle in 48 hours and continuing northward afterwards. Very strong winds at and above hurricane force will extend from Mobile, Alabama to Albany, Georgia to Savannah, Georgia. What direction should you head, and how far away should you go? So let's say here you are and the storm is down here to the south. It is coming up north, and it's basically going to head, and make landfall in this general area, and the wind field of hurricane force is going to be this kind of cone here. So you're kind of centrally located, and it's going to continue to go further north. You can't really go much south unless you're in a boat and want to
cruise to the Gulf.
Cruise somewhere. You've got basically this semicircle to evacuate from. So if the storm's coming in, which way would you go? Some ideas would be heading west or heading east to get out of that, going at a 90-degree perpendicular direction instead of going parallel to the direction of the path. That would be the easiest way to get out of the path of this hurricane.
Let's give you one more example, and this time get your thoughts on it instead of our thoughts.
Example number 3. You live in Miami, Florida. Hurricane Z is about 500 miles north-northeast of your location. It is heading west-northwest toward the coast at 15 miles per hour. The storm is 400 miles wide, and the National Hurricane Center has the storm making landfall in Jacksonville, Florida, then curving northward afterwards. Very strong winds at and above hurricane force will extend from Tallahassee to Orlando to Melbourne, Florida. What direction should you head? How far away should you go? Should you stay at home?
So hopefully these scenarios and examples kind of give you a good idea of what to do in the case of certain hurricanes. We did just use Florida as an example. I know that hurricanes can hit the Carolinas, the Gulf Coast, all the way over in Texas and stuff, but we spent a significant amount of time in Florida, and these are just, cities that we were around, so we used those as an example. Next topic, acquiring disaster supplies.
Whether you're evacuating or sheltering in place, you're going to need supplies, not just to get through the storm, but for the potentially lengthy and unpleasant aftermath. Have enough non-perishable food, water, and medicine to last each person in your family a minimum of 3 days. Store a longer than 3-day supply of water if possible. Electricity and water could be out for weeks. You'll need extra cash, a battery-powered radio, and flashlights. You may need a portable crank or solar-powered USB charger for your cell phones. And lastly, don't forget your pets. Make sure you have adequate supplies of their meds, food, and water for them as well.
So that was a great quote by Noah telling you exactly what their thoughts are on what you need and how much of it. And if you want to learn more, there will be some links in the description box.
And of course, there's nothing wrong with having even more things on
That's true.
hand, just in case. A 3-day supply is a pretty good guesstimate, especially if you live in a populated area. Chances of them getting power back up could increase versus the rural areas.
Yeah, and if a hurricane is coming to your area, put a helmet on when you go to the grocery store because it gets crazy out there.
It's not because of flying debris, right?
No. On to the next topic, check your insurance and document your valuables.
Insurance requires additional time as policy changes may not be made while there is an active storm going on. In addition, flood insurance requires a 30-day waiting period. So certain government agencies as well as insurance companies have policies and procedures they follow, and they may not be able to accommodate any additions or updates to your policy during certain periods of time.
So it's worth calling your insurance company just to make sure your home has got adequate coverage as well as all your belongings, that they're covered as well. And if you are renting, renter's insurance should cover you for all your belongings, and your landlord would be responsible for the structure itself. So you want to make sure that you're covered for any situation when it comes to storms impacting your area.
Remember, home and/or renter's insurance does not cover damages due to flooding. You'll need a separate policy for that. Flood insurance is available through the National Flood Insurance Program.
The link will be posted below.
On to the next topic, creating a communication plan.
Creating a communication plan is very important. So if you are evacuating, you want to let your loved ones know where you're going. And if you're going there, let them know when you're going to leave, what route you're going to take, and when you plan on being there. Sometimes there's things out of your control, so you might wind up having to take a different route. But if you can't communicate at least the initial plan, this is what I plan to do in my alternate routes, at least they'll be able to know when you plan on getting there, and they can keep tabs on you and make sure everything's okay.
Make sure you have a list of emergency contacts with you, as well as your utilities, such as water and power. Remember, the internet may not be accessible during or after the storm.
Also, while you are evacuating, it is probably a good idea to take some supplies with you, because something unfortunately that happens during a lot of hurricane evacuations, especially if they're closer to the 24-hour mark instead of farther in advance, is the highways can actually get clogged and the cars will end up going nowhere. So you can be stuck in your car for a long time. There was a couple hurricanes where people were stuck on interstates for days. So making sure that you bring enough food and water, more than you think you're going to need to get to your destination, is probably a really good idea to have as well.
That's right. One other thing I was thinking of was having a full gas tank before you evacuate.
Always.
So if you see your location is going to be in an evacuation, probably want to head out to the pump before the evacuation order is given. That way you're filled up and you're ready to go at a moment's notice.
Last topic, strengthening your home, because you want to have a home to come back to. That is the goal.
Right. So this kind of falls in line with an earlier topic of acquiring supplies. So it's always best to get supplies before a storm is coming your way, because once everyone gets wind of a storm is coming, all the Lowe's and all the Home Depots and everybody else, the lines are full, supplies get low on the shelf. Sometimes prices might go up because demand is so high and the supply is low. Try to get that stuff before hurricane season, but if you can't and the storm is on your way, just try to get it as soon as you can, but also make sure you have plenty of time to prepare and then plenty of time to evacuate.
Yes.
So you don't want to be stuck at home, boarding up your home, and then the storm rolls ashore and you're stuck. So it's the balancing act. You just have to do what's best for your situation, and every situation is different depending on the strength of the storm, how large it is, the direction it's coming in, how fast it's coming in, and what your home requires.
Installing storm shutters and/or impact glass is one way to strengthen a home. However, trying to schedule someone to come out when a hurricane is 5 days away might be a challenge for many contractors, especially since they will stop working and start repairing their homes as well. Other areas of the home to strengthen are sealing outside wall openings, reinforced garage doors. Many retrofits are not as costly or time-consuming as you may think. Trimming trees, clean any debris from drainage areas, allow water to flow freely away from your home. If you rent, work with your landlord now to prepare for the storm.
So there you have it. Here are a list of ways to prepare not only yourself but your home as well for any hurricane that might be coming along this season or in the future. All the links to the NOAA sites and resources that they provide will be down in the description box. Again, if you like what you saw, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below so you never miss the next one. We've got 2 more videos in this series, so stay tuned for that. Check out, again, our School of Weather, our website, and the links to our social media in the description box as well if you want to see some of the behind the scenes weather adventures that we go on. And until next time, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Jim.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you at the next Meteorology Monday.
Hang on
Now-
a second. It looks very blurry. Nope, I just need glasses.